Okay, so we are, looks like we are recording. So I'm gonna start, before I do an introduction, I want to start by really just letting you guys all know, of course, that it's important to understand, one, like we talked about last week, affirmations and things of that nature. So I want you guys to all just understand how important those things are, and that these trainings that I do week after week are gonna all be connected in that manner. So I want you all to really get the whole entrepreneurial spirit of moving forward in your business, and not only doing whatever it is you do for a living really good, but understanding that you have to understand how to be an entrepreneur around that, because you're going to run into a lot of different challenges that will hinder your business. And if you have a really strong vision, if you've got really strong affirmations, things of that nature, it will really help you get through those different circumstances when you've got that vision board up in front of your face, and having a success board, which we're not going to talk a lot about a success board here tonight, but I will tell you that having a success board is very important, because it really keeps you within a grateful mindset, a lot of gratitude, because you see that you've accomplished things, and then you don't forget where you came from. It keeps you humble. So once you get a little bit more advanced and say, okay, I got my vision board done, it's really looking good, I want you to go back and get a success board. And as you accomplish goals, create a success board with the goals that you've accomplished as well. And now you're looking at, this is what I've got done, this is what I'm looking to get to. And then now you also know that the law of attraction in this vision board works, because you're transferring items over from your vision board over to your success board. And that's really huge. And I want you guys to really focus on that. For those on the line that don't know who I am, my name is Robert Dunbar. I work with Legal Shield, and I also have a training company as well. And I'm not going to really be doing too much training today. It's really going to be all on Jackie Kotei today to do this, to do the training that she's going to be doing. But this young lady is really phenomenal young lady, really driven. And I really like the driven spirit. It's nothing like seeing somebody that wants to get up in the morning. When you stop needing an alarm clock, you know you're in a place where you get up and you look at your alarm clock on your cell phone, and you got up 8 minutes before it went off, because you're really ready. You're already ready to go. I'll tell you one thing that I've learned to do is prepare my night before, and put the things on my mind that I need to do, get everything set up, so that when I go to sleep at night, my mind is working on the next day already. So I really go to bed getting ready. So being driven is a powerful thing, and it really changes how you get up. This young lady, as it comes to Legal Shield, she's a 50K ring earner, and she was able to do that in less than 6 months, her and her husband. On top of that, this young lady has a publicity and media strategist background, former TV reporter. So check this out, right? I'm gonna have to read this, because I normally could just look at somebody's stuff and just look at the camera and say it. I can't with this, because this lady got too much going on. So I'm looking at the credentials, right, guys, as featured in. This young lady has been on ABC News, Channel 13, Metro, NPR, Dateline, Rescue 911, Channel 11, World News, Fox 5, Ignite, Good Morning America, Telemundo. I didn't know you knew Spanish. The Sun, Today, and W Top. So this young lady has been featured in all those different things. She also has a separate business running, where she's helping visionaries really get the best out of what they're doing for their life. So I couldn't think of anybody better to help share vision boards and how vision works, because a storyteller really captures the ideas and the theologies of things that it takes to be successful. And when helping put together this PowerPoint, I've noticed that this entire thing is a story for her. It's a big story for her. So at the end, we'll talk about how you can get in touch with her, how you can get in touch with me as we close out. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the wonderful Mrs. Jackie Kotei. And you can unmute yourself, and I'll unshare my screen, and you can share your screen. Good?
Okay, thank you. Yes, yes, yes. So I am so excited to be here. Thank you, Mr. Dunbar, so much for that introduction. I'm so excited to be able to do this. And I see, many of our colleagues on the line and people's names that just look familiar. And I'm excited that you guys decided to spend time with us today doing this. This is not a training. I was sharing with Mr. Dunbar. This is not a training that I typically do. I'm doing it as a special request. It's probably been about 5 years since I last trained on vision boards. And I'm so excited to do it because, as Mr. Dunbar and I were talking about this and planning this, we really thought that this is the perfect time to be sharing and having people work on vision boards. And so I'm excited that we get to bring this to you, and that when you look back on COVID-19 and everything that's unfolded, you can say, you know what? This is the time that I got so serious about my vision. I got super laser about my vision. So with that, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my story. I'm going to be sharing, where I come from, but I'm also just going to be giving you guys examples of what being able to have a big vision has done in my life and created in my life. And so I'm going to start just by sharing, as Mr. Dunbar talked about, I'm based in the Maryland, DC area. And I really first came to Legal Shield, honestly, because of my husband. And I have to say thank you to my husband every time that I do a presentation or a training, because when I first looked at Legal Shield, I had a lot of just arrogance about the industry and, about the product and, and all of that. But I'm so grateful that my husband had the vision. And I think that's really the first thing that I'll share. As you guys are taking notes, we're going to do a little bit of training about vision and vision boards. And then we're going to actually carve out about 10 or 15 minutes to start working on it. And hopefully we'll be able to incorporate questions as well. But, the reason why we're here in Legal Shield and the reason why we've been able to create the results that we have created is because my husband had a vision. He had a vision that this was an opportunity for us that could really change things in our lives. And I'm going to be super transparent with you guys as I share and train tonight. Even though I run a super successful PR firm and I'm grateful to work with the clients that I work with, owning a coaching practice has a high overhead. And so my husband saw the vision of being able to create another stream of cash flow that didn't have high overhead, but could have an impact for so many more people. And so we started really at the end of August, like August 25th to be exact. And over the last 6 to 7 months, we've just been able to create incredible results. And, we keep going. And if you were to ask me what our vision is next, and even tonight as I chart it out, we really want to go platinum. We want to be able to, hit the 100K ring and, many of the other things after that. But a lot of the results that we have created have been really driven by our vision. And I think that's really the first point that I want to touch on today, is that you've got to have a vision that's bigger than the reality that you have right now and in your current space. So in our current space, and you guys, we're going to make this interactive so you can share in the chat, what's our current reality right now? Our current reality is being stuck in the home, or, homeschooling, or not being able to get out and do the things that you want to do or whatever. And so part of what we want to be doing is thinking about, okay, what's our vision beyond our current reality? And so just to take a look at the definition of vision, and I think it's important to start by us having common ground or being on the same sheet of music when it comes to what vision means. So vision is the faculty or state of being able to see. So that's important. It's also the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination and wisdom. And, I think one of the things that is really, my dad, I was just going to the doctor this morning with my dad, and he's like, what do you think about all this COVID-19 stuff? And I'm like, we're getting like, he's like, you're an eternal optimist by the way I answered what I thought about it. And so that's always been one of my strong suits. But even if you don't feel like you're naturally optimistic, it's like what you want to be doing is thinking about and planning what's to come with imagination. So, many of us remember being little and playing outside, or you know, we used to play sharks on the playground, where we get on the playground, and if you weren't on the playground but down below was the water and, you know, the sharks. And so it's like you're playing this imaginary game and just having so much fun along the way. And so the cool thing about vision is that you get to tap into that little 3-year-old or 4-year-old and really tap into imagination. Like, what would you do if you had everything at your disposal? If you could wave a wand and create something in your life, what would it be? And so that's the power of vision. That's what vision means. And one of my favorite things that I like to encourage people to think about, and you know, this comes from Proverbs 29:18. It says, when there is no vision, the people perish. And so for each and every one of us, every day that we operate without a vision beyond where you currently are, because, you know, there's some things in my life that I've done that used to be a vision, but they've been accomplished. And so you want to be using your vision to pull you forward, to pull you closer to thriving, to living. You know, the opposite of not being driven by your vision and not having a clear vision is that you're perishing. So every day you're making a choice of either moving closer towards life, to growing, to thriving, or you're moving in the opposite direction. And so what we want to do is make sure that each and every one of you are clear, that you have a vision, that you have a vision for Legal Shield, that you have a vision really for every area of your life. Because if you don't have a vision, it's going to be very difficult for you to get through the things that you're up to and that you're doing day in and day out. And just let me know in the chat if you guys hear me there, and if this is landing for you, because I think a lot of times people say, well, how did you rank advance so quickly? And I'm pulling up the chat right now so I can see you guys. How did you rank advance so quickly? And how did you create this result and that result? It's because I had a vision that we could do it. And that, you know, I knew that for me, you know, a driving force when we first got started was wanting to be able to shore up cash flow. We wanted to be able to pay off debt that we had put into the business. And so that was constantly on my wall. And even now that we've hit certain milestones, I'm like, okay, well, what's next? Like, what's our vision next? And so you want to be clear on what your vision is, because just like having no vision, if you have a foggy vision, if you have a vision that is unclear or is just kind of iffy, it's also going to have you move closer towards perishing than towards thriving. And so we want to make sure that you are in the place where you're growing and you're thriving. So I want to just take a moment now, and you can answer this in the chat. You can also just take a moment, and I know we didn't tell people to bring notebooks. So if you don't have a journal, you can just, you know, give yourself a quiet moment. But one of the questions that has allowed me to get clear about my vision is asking myself, what do you want? And I want you guys to ask yourself that now. What do you want? It's interesting to me. I sometimes coach a special leadership, emotional intelligence training. And we have this whole part of the training where, like, we take time and we're like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you, and it, like, we dig deep into what you want. I think sometimes as adults, we get so busy helping everyone else and giving and just doing all the things we're supposed to do that we forget to ask ourselves, like, what do you want? And so this is like where the vision starts to originate. And so I want to have you take a moment and just ask yourself, like, what do you want? What do you want your life to look like in the next few months? What do you want right now? You know, what do you want out of life? What do you want things to look like? What do you want people to say about who you are and what you stood for? So take a moment right now and just answer that question. And you can answer in the chat if you want. You can just answer in your journal, or just give yourself a moment to think about it. But I think before we even cut out things and put them on a magazine, you know, on a poster board, I want you to get clear about that. Ask yourself, what do I want? What do you want? Take a moment and just think about that. Feel you. Awesome. All right. So, this is a good question that I encourage you to write down. And I encourage you to dig deeper to it, through it, even beyond today's training. I want to have you go one layer deeper now. So I see time and money freedom, 1.5 million is platinum, qualify for ED. Okay, these are all incredible things. What I now want to have you do is go one layer deeper and ask yourself, why do you want that? Like, why? What's the reason? So, Craig, my husband and I, we also want to hit platinum, and we want the 1.5 million. And the reasons why we want it are probably different than the reasons why you want it. But your why should be so strong that it almost makes you cry. And sometimes if you don't have a why that is that strong, that compelling, then you got to dig deeper. You got to keep asking yourself, okay, why do I want that? Why do I want that? Why do I want that? So, I want to give you just a 60 seconds to ask yourself, why do you want that? So why do you want the things that you want? This is all going to be really good as we start to create the vision board itself, is being clear on that. What do you want and why do you want it? So I'm going to give you 60 seconds to answer the question, why do you want it? Okay. All right. So the beautiful thing about the why is that starts to hit into the emotion a little bit more. So, when I say I want to go platinum, that's very much up in my head. It's up in the thinking part. But when I start to tell you that I've never had a millionaire in my family, and, I want to be able to change the legacy. I want to be able to give my kids a better tomorrow than what we ever had. I want money scarcity to be gone in our last name. Like, there are so many things about that just start to compel me for the vision that I've got. So that's where you want to start when it comes to what it is that we're talking about today. Why do you want it and what do you want? Now, I want to just share with you, I've been doing vision boards now for the last 12 years. I cannot believe it. And that picture right there is my very first vision board. And it's interesting that we're training on it tonight because, back when I did the very first vision board, that wasn't really a thing that people were walking around talking about, and I remember reading this woo-woo book about your vision and all of that. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give this thing a try. Because at the time, I was really at a point in my life where I felt like I wasn't creating what I wanted to create. I had literally got kicked out of school because my mom couldn't pay tuition. And when I finally got back, I wound up moving back home to Maryland and feeling like I was back in my mom's house. And it just didn't seem like life was what I wanted it to be. And so I got this, it was a Valentine's Day card that my sister had given me on one side. And I'm like, I'm going to create a vision board. And this is the vision board, like live in the flesh. And it's interesting now that I look back at the vision board and even over time, but so much about the vision board has unfolded. And, I think just even the main thing, if you guys see there on the screen, I had NBC News and CNN, and this was 2008. By 2010, do you see that microphone right there? That was me at NBC, basically reporting the news. And while I was working at NBC, I got picked up one day to go and do a national live stream, or national live shot, they used to call it back then, for CNN. And so, I think one of the first questions as we're diving in deeper is really just asking yourself, and I'm just going to encourage you for the sake of this, to list out some of what you want. Like, because ideally, by the time we get to the point of cutting things out and getting them on the board, I want you to start to be kind of clear. And so, for me, a big part of what's been a driver on my vision boards have been career-wise. But I'll share with you that, I've had other things. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the vision boards that we're going to create, is that you really can put on your vision board anything that you want. So, this was another thing that was on that vision board, Obama for president. And I know, it might have seem like, oh, well, it's definitely a shoo-in. But I remember when he became, or even when he was running, it just was unfathomable that a Black man might actually win the presidency. And so I remember putting that on my vision board, and of course, seeing that come true and seeing that unfold a year later. Getting married. So my husband and I have been dating for eternity, and I know we have probably some women on the Zoom that might be single and things like that. But I really wanted to get married, and my husband was kind of like, oh. And so, but then eventually we got married. And so that was another thing that I had on my vision board, as well as things like a home. I wasn't a homeowner, and I hadn't done fun things like going snorkeling and things like that. But both of those things happened shortly thereafter me making the vision board. So I want you just to take a moment now and just brainstorm down, what are some of the things that you want? What are some of the things that you'd like to see unfold, whether it's fun things or just things that are happening in the world, or, maybe you want to see space travel. I don't know. But I think that's the beautiful thing about the vision board, is that you get to really create it however you want. And I'm showing you before and after pictures of my vision boards over the years, because it just astounds me when I look back. Even as we were putting this training together, I look back and I'm like, man, there are so many things that have come true in one form or another through me just starting by having the vision. And I think that's, again, where I just want to encourage you to defy possibility and just start with the vision. Start with what it is that you want. It's not always about how you're going to get there. And I think tonight's training especially is a good example, or a good time for you just to immerse yourself in possibility. This is not the strategy or the training session that Mr. Dunbar is doing, where we're going to map out the strategy of how to get there. This is really just allowing you to really unleash your vision and put the things down that just bring you joy, that open your heart to what's possible, that allow you to dream and imagine. And so take time now as I'm going through these and start to brainstorm down, what are some things that you want on your vision board? What's your vision? What do you want it to look like in your health, in your finances, in your relationships, in your career, in what's happening in the world? Like, what do you want it to look like? Another thing that I had on my vision board back then in 2009 was I had children. And it's interesting, I wasn't married. And I'm like, I know I want to be a mom, and I know I wanted to be able to have like a son and have a daughter. And so this is my son, Nikwe, who's 6 years old now. But before he was ever alive in the flesh, he was on a vision board, and it's funny now that we're homeschooling, because as you guys saw in that photo, that's me doing homework with him. And right now I'm hating it. So it's like, be careful what you ask for in your vision. But the point is that this is another thing that just came to reality from my vision board. So I want to just encourage you, because I think sometimes, like when I'm sharing my vision board and when you guys are thinking about my story, you might say, well, Jackie, that's you. That's you are able to create those results, or because you're X, Y, and Z, or because, I hear all kinds of things. Because you have a husband, you've been able to be successful. Because, you live in the boondock, like all kinds of things. But what I know is that we all inherently have the same power at work in all of us. And so this is one of the very first quotes that I read. It was around the same time that I found this quote, and it should be attributed to Marianne Williamson and Dr. Nelson Mandela. But it was around that same time that I made that first vision board that I found this quote. And I remember, being in such a different place than the woman you guys even see now. And at the time, I didn't know, like, I was afraid to even get an on-air job. Like, I'm like, who am I to think I can be on air? Like, I'm a Black woman from DC, like with natural hair. There's not a lot of us on TV. And so I just remember being in such a different place in my life where I wasn't that confident. I wasn't, sure like of myself or what I was meant to do and all of that. And I remember reading this quote, and I want to read it now and let it sink in deeply for you, because I think that no matter who you are, it's your birthright to be able to have everything that you want, whether you feel qualified or not, whether you feel successful enough or not. And so the quote goes, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. We are all meant to shine as children do. And so I want to just encourage you with that quote, because I think sometimes people think certain things are only for certain people and that they're not for themselves. And I don't know if any of you feel that way. But what I want to encourage you with, especially as we dive deeper into talking about your vision and creating your vision, is that the sky is the limit. You don't have to have been formally educated or come from a certain family or have certain things to be able to create the vision that you want to create. You really can create the vision from whatever. And just know that you are brilliant, you're fabulous, you're gorgeous, even if sometimes you don't feel like it. And what I've learned about the vision, the things that have come true in my life, is that some things have happened that I didn't deserve. Things have happened that have been better than what I thought they were going to be. And so I think part of it is just this deep knowing that I am powerful beyond measure. And I think that's the beauty of us creating your vision board tonight, is that just the act of putting like pen to paper, photo to cardboard, cutting it out, it's like it's opening up something in you that's giving you permission. It's like just that small seed of faith of like, you know what, I'm looking at one of the magazines here. It says luxury travel. Just the small act of me being like, yeah, I want that. And cutting it out is igniting the powerful beyond measure part, where it may happen, because you worked hard or because you networked with the right people. It may also happen just because you're a child of God and you're powerful beyond measure. So I want to share that with you, because I think sometimes, especially in this day of social media, I think people get into comparison and they're like, oh, well, yeah, of course it can happen for you, Jackie. And I'm like, no, it can actually happen for you too. And there might be even better things in store for you. Who's to say? But it starts with your vision. It starts with you saying so. So that's really important as we go through this. So I'm going to keep going. So I want to show you the second vision board that I ever created. And the reason why I put this, so I've got all the vision boards on the slide, but the reason why I want to share this one, I created this one about 3 years later. At the time I created it, there wasn't a lot of things on this vision board that had happened. Some of them had, but it just felt like it was time. However, because I didn't have a lot of things happen on the original vision board, I created a vision board for the second time that was more about the words and the spirit that I wanted to embody. And so I give you this as a different example of a vision board. There's a lot of just words on there. There's a lot of things that I wanted, like treat me right. That was something that I wanted. I wanted to turn chaos into calm, because I was actually working in television there. And although I thought working in TV was going to be a dream come true, it was actually like challenging and, depressing and a lot of doom and gloom. And at the time I was like, I just want to turn this chaos into calm. And so I was really into yoga retreats at the time, and I wanted to dive deeper in my relationship with God and, just so many different things, inner peace, family, honesty, culture. So I want to give you another example of a vision board here, that it doesn't always have to be that you have the sky is the limit things on your vision board. You can also have a vision around who you want to be and like how you want to be surrounded in your life. And so this was a really good example of this for me, because I just, I was at a point where I'm like, the things that I've asked for my vision haven't come true, but I'm feeling this need in my life to be a different version of myself. And so I think this vision board, when I look at it now and I'm like, man, and actually now that I'm looking at it right now in the center, you see, I value my vision, because I was really doubting my vision. I thought my vision was to get on television, and that was a dream come true, but it was also a challenge. And so I had to remind myself, like, okay, this is what I want, like things like I can do it. And when I look at this now and I think, wow, this is really who I am as a person. But when I created it in 2011, I didn't feel a lot of these things. I didn't feel a lot of inner peace. I didn't feel like I was giving myself the star treatment, or that I was, like living in the way that I wanted to live. And so I wanted to share this version of a vision board with you, because I think this is another example of what you can create even tonight. Especially if you're like, I've created a bunch of vision boards before, and it's not the vision that I need help with, it's who I am and how I'm showing up in the world that I need to really evolve into. And so I wanted to give you guys that example. So here's the next vision board that I created in 2014. And I'm going to share this vision board, or what I'm going to share about this is, I think a lot of times, and I'd love to know who here is an entrepreneur who's still trying to figure out their thing. So this was when I created this vision board. And the interesting thing about this vision board is that at this time I was working a full-time job. I had left television, tried to be an entrepreneur, it didn't work. And I was like in a full-time job that I just knew wasn't the right fit anymore. And I knew I wanted to give entrepreneurship a chance again, or a go again. But I had no freaking clue what it was that I wanted to do. I could not tell you what I wanted to do, because I had already tried the entrepreneurial journey that I thought I wanted to do, and it didn't work out. And I was back at a full-time job. And so this is another really good example of not needing to know or figure out everything in black or white. And what I mean by that is that a lot of this vision board was like what I knew I wanted to do in the world, but it wasn't precise. It wasn't as precise as when I first created this one. And I was like, yeah, NBC, CNN, like that's what I want, And so I wanted to show you guys this one as another encouragement, because I think sometimes, I know we've got a lot of people that are in Legal Shield that are clear on that stream of income. But I think a lot of times when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get clear on your message and clear on your niche and clear on how to have a successful business, you kind of go through these moments of like, I don't even know what this needs to look like. And this was one of the ones for me. And again, I think what I would recommend doing in that case is thinking about how you want to feel in the work that you do in the world, or what you want to be creating through the work that you want to do in the world. So I'll say that again. You want to either think about how you want to feel in the work that you want to create, or you want to think about what you want it to embody as you're creating it. Because that's really important. That's what I did here. And it's interesting to me, like I still remember having this vision board up next to my bed. I would have it like every time I woke up in the morning, every time I went to bed, I would look at it. And there were so many days I looked at it just feeling hopeless, because I'm like, I just really wish I knew what it needed to look like. And I remember that was a prayer that I had for like a good 6 months. I'm like, God, if you just show me the way, I will do whatever it takes. But at the time, I didn't know what the way was. I didn't know what to do. I just knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I needed to be successful at it. And I knew I couldn't fail the way I had failed before, And so I want to, again, encourage you guys with this example, because as we make our vision boards tonight, there may be things, and I know I'm talking about entrepreneurship in this example, but there may be other things for you, like your relationship or your health, or where you're like, I know what I want to feel when it feels healthy, when I feel healthy, but I have no clue what it looks like. Like maybe you failed before and you're like, okay, I don't even want to do that again. And so part of what you can do is really go around what you want it to be like and what you want it to result in and things like that. And this was a good example because, for me, what do you do when you don't know what it looks like? You basically do this. You think about what it's going to feel like, or what is it going to, how are you going to be when it's in place? You don't have to necessarily define the it. And so this was for me, that vision board. And I always think about this vision board because after this vision board, I probably didn't make another one until last year. So 5 years later, but this was me, so I made the vision board in 2014. I started my business around the spring, this version of my business around the spring. And since then, we've been able to be a multiple six-figure company. For the last 3 years, we get sought after to speak on stages and events. And I kind of always think about this picture specifically because when I go back to the picture of, her right here, it's like, yeah, on stage, like I just knew I wanted to give, I wanted to pour out like my talents and my, everything that I just didn't know what it was going to look like. But now that I look back, I'm like, there's so much about my life that came from that vision board, even though I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know what kind of business I'd be doing. I didn't know that I'd be in the coaching world, helping people grow their following online and things like that. The other thing that I really want to share about this vision board is that it's important on your vision boards to be bold. And it's interesting that I have be bold there now that I'm looking at this example. But in 2014, I had already given birth to my son and I wanted to have a daughter. And so I was just bold. I just cut it out. And literally that was a big piece of my vision. And sure enough, 2 years later, I got pregnant with my daughter. And so that's just a very simple example, but I think it's important for you to be bold. I think when you're going through and creating your vision for the things you are clear about, some things you may not be clear about. You may not be clear about exactly what your business is going to look like or what your relationships are going to look like. You may have to put the feeling on there, what it looks like when it's in reality. But other things you are clear. You're like, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and be bold about that. Don't feel like you've got to, be scale it down because of fear or things like that. Because for me, when I gave birth to my daughter, I was like, man, this is incredible. It's perfect. It's a girl, exactly what I asked for on my vision board. Same with traveling. We've been able to go to Ghana, Costa Rica, Turkey, Dubai, all over the US. And these were things that were just on my vision board. I feel like I've stayed places that look exactly like this picture. And so, I think the cool thing about it is that you actually get better the more that you do these vision boards. And one of my favorite quotes, and, we're going to take another moment here and give you guys a chance to jot some things down, but I love Oprah Winfrey's quote. A lot of times when I'm training people in media and PR strategy, I always talk about this, especially when it comes to getting featured in the media too, but it's like you get in this life what you have the courage to ask for. And some of you don't have the vision that you want because maybe you haven't asked for it yet. And so part of what I want to do right now is give you permission just to kind of scan, check in with yourself and see what is it that you have not yet asked for that you want, or that it's that you wish you had, or maybe it's just been a thought in your head and you haven't actually articulated it. But I want to just encourage you to take a moment now. I'll give you guys about 60 seconds. We're kind of used to this now, so you don't need a lot of time. But, you get in this life what you have the courage to ask for. And so I want you to take some time now and just think what is it that you would want? Or what is it that you just haven't asked for? And just jot some of that down. Maybe it's something you need to be bold about. Maybe it's something that you're not exactly clear what it looks like, but kind of what it'll feel like when you've got it. Yeah, so Valerie, be specific. So what does that look like? Oh, I love that, Linnell. I'm right there with you. Circle of champions. Yes. You get in this life what you have the courage to ask for. And I think Oprah is such a great example of this. When I look at her life and all she's created, it's like, if one woman can tell you, that's the secret right there. It's like, this is what you get in your life. And so I think the beautiful thing about it, and we're going to start in just a few minutes about this vision board opportunity, is that you get to ask. Don't let it be said that after this training, you did not ask. Like, let it be said that as a result of this, you actually asked. You put it on a vision board, you declared it, you wrote it down, like you put a date on it, you put a ring on it. So let it not be because of this that you didn't ask. All right, so I want to bring you guys up to speed, and this will be the last vision board that I share. This is my 2019 vision board. And, I did this one a little bit differently. I did it in a book, and it's actually how I'm going to do it tonight. And, it was like, at this time, it just, and this might be for people that have already done vision boards. So this might be like the advanced part. But I felt like at this point, I've had so many things come to fruition in my life that I was like, what am I going to put on a vision board that hasn't happened? And so, I think if you're in the stage of your life where you've already had a lot of things unfold and you're like, okay, like what else can I create, or else do I want? I would just encourage you to just take it up, like 10x it. And I know some people train on 10xing stuff and all of that, but I think that's the beauty of vision boards, is that, as you create things and as you see things unfold, it challenges you to now take it up a notch, to dream even bigger. And so I think that that's the beautiful thing about the vision board that I created. And what I will tell you is that as a result of growing your vision, and, for some of you tonight, what I'm talking about and doing your vision board, it might be a stretch. It might be a stretch for you just to put one or two things on, or just to even get clear, even as we're talking. But for others of you, you've already got the vision board muscle. You might have done a few vision boards. And so what I found, similar to working out and everything else in life, is that the more that you create these vision boards, the better you get at manifesting and having things unfold. And so I want to share with you guys, so this was our vision board from last year. And the very cool thing about it, so one of the biggest things for me was that I really wanted to create more intimacy with my husband, not from a standpoint of like sexual intimacy, but more so from the standpoint of us just having this closeness and like this, like both of us winning. And when I look at what we've created with Legal Shield, it's like it has brought that to fruition and living color. Because, it used to be that I was running this successful company and he was mostly in the behind the scenes supporting me. But with Legal Shield, it's just allowed us both to thrive, where like we're working our team and he's doing his zone of genius and I'm doing my zone of genius. And so, that was one of the things that came to fruition in a way that I never thought it would. The other cool thing, and this is like the thing that it just gets me so excited, and I just wish this for all of you, is for about 10 years, I had wanted to go to Bali. And I don't know if any of you have read the book Eat, Pray, Love, but I read it, 10 plus years ago. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to Bali, and, just kept saying it. And so when I did the vision board last year, I put this image of one of the Balinese temples on here. And do you know, so I did my vision board in like December of 2018 or January of 2019. Do you know that in February of 2019, I got a phone call. We went to Bali. So, but the cool thing about it, and this is why I'm like, it gets better with time, is that not only did we go to Bali, and this is exactly where we went, that's the exact photo that was in the magazine. So it's like powerful how the exact photo that I put on the thing is exactly where we are. But the other thing that was really powerful about it was that we went to Bali on an all expense paid trip, a 5-star trip. I mean, we stayed in a hotel where we had a personal attendant. I've never had a personal attendant. We flew like Emirates. I mean, and it was all paid for. And so it was powerful because it's like, it was my vision to go. But in my mind, I thought, oh, we're going to save a bunch of money. Like, we're going to plan it out. We're going to get there. But it actually came even better than what I put on the vision board. And so I really want that for each and every one of you, for you to have things on your vision board that just are so much sweeter and so much better than you could have even imagined it tonight. The other thing that was really powerful is that on the vision board, I had these two checks. Because remember, I told you, even though I run a PR company, the overhead was always so much that my bank account normally didn't have any more than like $1,000 or $500 in it at any given time. And so I remember when I was doing this vision board, I was like, man, I really want to have, you know, you see there, I literally cut out a bank account with $10,190 in it. And I did another one with $20,300 because I'm like, I just want to get to a point where like my balance is not always like negative 35 or 400 or whatever. And so sure enough, and this is, you know, just one of the blessings of Legal Shield too, is that our builder bonus check in 2020 was this exact amount, $10,904. And so in one day, it's like literally, and so that was a little bit more than what I cut out, because I cut out, I think it said 10,200. Yeah, 190. And so Legal Shield kind of reversed the 9 and the 1. And so, you know, I got 9. So, and our next builder bonus check, whenever they release those this month, is projected to be $23,000. So I just share this, and I'm just, you know, I really wanted to share real examples. Oh, the last example I'll share is, you know, I want to have tons of babies. I actually have twins on my desk, and that's a big vision. And I didn't give Mr. Dunbar this next slide because I literally today went for an ultrasound, but I had this photo on my vision board of my daughter. You know, I want to have another baby. I'm like baby crazy. And so sure enough, when I went to the ultrasound today, I found out that I'm pregnant, and so I'm also gonna have, and I knew I was pregnant, but I didn't know when and all that stuff. So again, I'm just sharing these real examples to inspire you to go beyond what you think is possible. Like, I want to stretch your vision. And I think that's one of the things that has been like my strong suit, is that you know, I just feel like if someone else has already done it, why not me? You know, I remember being at the convention in October, and for the first time really seeing Legal Shield and seeing the big movement and seeing people walk across stage who weren't as articulate as I was, or who looked like me, or, you know, I'm like, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And so, you know, and I remember sitting down and talking with Mr. Self, one of our mentors, and asking, I'm like, what does it take to go platinum? Because I have an attitude and I have a vision of why not me? Why not me? And so I want to encourage you guys, we're going to actually spend the next 10 minutes or so just going to the vision boards and having you create what it is that you want to create, and let my story be an example of what's possible for you. Because, you know, looking back and creating this training, there are so many moments. I mean, I don't have time to recount all the things that have unfolded. I mean, those were the highlights. But there's so many things that would have never even entered my mind. And I honestly don't think they would have happened in reality if it didn't start with me declaring and saying that this is what I want. And so what I want to do now is give you guys a few minutes. Now it's your turn. So I want to give you guys a few minutes to work on your vision boards. And actually, before we do that, I want to take any questions. So, you know, I went through a lot of different things as far as what to consider, what to ask yourself, things like, what do you want? Why do you want them? Thinking about what you can be bold about, thinking about, you know, just stretching your vision, knowing that it's possible for not just me, it's also possible for you. And so, you know, I went through a lot of different things, but I want to just give a moment to ask any questions, and then we'll spend like the last 5 or 10 minutes just working on the vision boards. But let me just know if you guys have questions. I don't know if it's better to ask in the chat or unmute. Have you guys unmute yourself? I don't think you guys can actually unmute yourself. So maybe you can do a raise hand. And
I allowed them the ability to unmute themselves.
okay, cool.
So if
Yeah,
you unmute yourself, you can ask a question.
yeah, so you can either ask in the chat or you can raise your hand. And that kind of way. But so I see one of, oh, hey, I see one of my high school friends, Ingrid. No, so I'm not pregnant with twins. I found out today it was one. I had to leave that slide blank because I wasn't sure what the verdict was going to be. So we'll see. That might be another part of the vision that comes true. And I think that's the other thing that I will say is that some of the things that you're putting on your vision board, they're, you know, they may not happen for years. I mean, Bali for me was one of those things. It didn't happen for 10 years, but I never lost the vision. And I think that's important. Like, I never lost the vision. I've been wanting to be a millionaire for the last 7, 8 years, and I haven't quite done a million in one calendar year yet. And I've never lost the vision. And so the cool thing about it is as I'm going towards the vision, there are so many other incredible moments along the way. And so I think that that's the beautiful thing about, you know, having the vision board and doing it. So any other questions? I don't see any in the chat. Does anybody want to raise hand and ask question?
Raise your hand or unmute your line if you have a question.
Okay, so I see Truleen. So Mr. Dunbar, can you unmute her? Oh, there she goes. Go for it, Truleen.
So I just want to get your opinion. Some people say that you should do vision boards every year. Would you say, you know, you should do it every year to just kind of keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, you absolutely can. I've just found for me that my vision boards have been more organic. And I found that in the moments where I've needed to really be pulled forward, those are the times that I've really created vision boards. Like, I didn't create one for 2020. You know, and it's interesting now that I think if I would have, like, my year would have looked completely different. I didn't think I was going to get pregnant this year. No, I wanted to, but my husband was like adamantly opposed. You know, I didn't think we'd be in coronavirus lockdown right now, you know? And so I think if I had done one for 2020, it might look completely different right about now. And so what I would say is, you know, you could definitely do them annually. I think for me, the approach that's really worked is just organically, as I found like new callings, or as I felt like I'm ready for my next best version of my life. And that's really, you know, when I finally did one after doing this vision board, it was like so many things had happened on it that I just felt like, okay, I'm ready for what's next in my life. Okay, Linnell.
Hi, Ms. Kotei. Thank you so much for letting me speak. I appreciate it. As far as the vision board goes, do you create multiple ones at the same time just to, you know, because I know they say when you have a goal, you post your goal everywhere. So do you do the same thing for the vision board, or is it just one that's created with all of your vision on there?
Yeah, I've found that creating one works for me. And I often use, and I wish I could show you guys like my office walls, but I often use my big whiteboard papers on the wall for things that I'm working towards, like in the moment. You know, like right now we're working on platinum, and so I've got, you know, the different ED legs up on my wall and like tracking and things like that. And so I found that just having one works really well, but I think the key to it, and this is whether you're tracking like for a goal in the moment or your vision, is to have it up visually where you can see it. So I've done one of two things, and that's why I didn't bring out the other ones, because they're up on a wall. But I either put it up on a wall, and I like to even keep the ones that I've created up on the wall, because every so often there's like a few things that I haven't done on it. But I basically keep them up on the wall. Or the other option is that you want to have it someplace where you make a point to look at it every day. So, you know, for the vision board that I created last that you guys saw, I also created a vision statement that's in the present tense, so that, you know, I have the pictures and I look at the pictures and I get in the emotion of the pictures. So I'm glad you actually asked me that, because that's another thing that we talked about with the why. But it's like, you want to get in the emotion of what it feels like to have that thing happen that you're putting on the vision board. That's a really key point to visualizing. And so I get in the emotion, but I also read a statement in the present tense of me having those things happen. You know, so I live in a multi-million-dollar home. I'm surrounded by beautiful things. I love the smell of our garden. You know, so it's like I'm talking in present tense with that.
Oh, that's really good. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Tanya Pluckrose.
Yes, hello. Thank you
Hey,
so
Tanya.
much. Hi, Jackie. Just a quick question. Do you ever put a spiritual symbol on a vision board? I've been told by Catherine Ponder in the Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, she mentions different color backgrounds with regards to your poster paper, because say gold is all about finance, whereas yellow is spiritual. Red is for love. And then she often recommends putting a spiritual figure, either it's a picture of God or maybe the cross or something in the corner of your vision board, because you are relying on a power greater than yourself to support you in manifesting these. And then she also says, this or something better, thy unlimited good be done now, Father. So do you ever put those sort of things on your vision board to honor and respect the fact that God is going to help you manifest these wonderful things?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think those are great things that you share, you know, for people who want to use some of those tools. I found for me that my vision board is very spiritual in general. You know, like as I look back at the different ones, I've never had an actual like one symbol or one. I know, me too. I love Tanya's voice too. But I never had like one symbol or like, you know, spiritual colors. But I've just found that the vision board itself is very like spiritual in many different ways, you know, whether I have a sun rising or, you know, I'm just looking at some of my past ones, but it's like, it always has that dynamic, and it always is very spiritual for me, because I think vision itself comes from the spirit. You know, and so I think whether you're asking for $1 million or you're asking for a dream house or you just want more inner peace, those are all spiritual things. So I think that's the power of them. I will say that, you know, we're not training on this tonight, but there have been all kinds of spiritual practices that I've done to complement achieving my vision. You know, I've done 40-day prayer circles with other women. You know, I've put miracles in a jar, like, you know, documented miracles that have happened. I've done the oath of manifestation, like all kinds of things that I've done, you know, throughout my journey to be able to really anchor and grow in that area in alignment with my vision. So I do know of an app. I'll have to get the app later, because I did have a coach tell me about an app that I've not used yet, but I have heard about that. Okay, Willie, and then Estella.
Yes.
Okay.
Question for you. How large should your original vision board be when you're putting items on there? You know, so do you measure the item? Like, say, if I wanted a Bentley, do you suggest making small copies, or how big should the board be itself?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe you make it the size of the Bentley and then fill it with things. I just, you know, and I'll share with you guys the way that I've done mine. It's like the pictures are all over the place. I've seen some people that just have it very clean. it's like the Bentley, and that's all that's in that part, you know? So I can't answer that, Willie. I mean, I typically just cut it out. Maybe I need to put the car on here bigger because I still haven't gotten my Mercedes yet. So maybe I need to make, maybe it was too small 10 years ago. So, all right, Estella.
Yeah, that's my question earlier was, did you have multiple ones? But you already answered that. So I have another question, and that is, you talked about, now I saw some of your vision boards and you have pictures, and then other ones you have words. And typically when I'm finding things to put on a vision board, it's words. Can you talk a little bit more about how that differentiates in the manifestation? I mean, probably.
Yeah, I mean, so here's what I know, and I know that there's like way more science around this. I've actually done a lot of like subconscious work, but your mind tends to think in symbols and images. And so there's a lot of power to actually having the thing, like the image in your like psyche, even more so than the word. And so I do have like words on there, especially that one that was all about words, because I was like, I just got to really change who I am in the world, like who I'm being, you know, not what I want, but who I'm being needs to shift. And so, but I find that, you know, again, you saw it in reality here tonight. There were a lot of things that were images that happened exactly the way they were on the vision board. And so it's like my mind, you know, and Mr. Dunbar could probably talk about law of attraction too, but it's like your mind almost searches for that solution. And so there's a lot of power to being able to actually have the image.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, real quickly too, Jackie, because you brought something up, and this is a way for people to try to test it too. The vision board you should be doing, obviously, that's why we're doing this call here, or this Zoom, I should say. But something that you can do to kind of test it, I did years ago that I learned, I believe it was T.D. Jakes or John C. Maxwell, somebody, I was taking a study from them. And if you got a situation that you're dealing with, trying to make a decision on something, whether it be switching jobs or moving to a different, or having a child, whatever it may be, write it down on paper before you go to bed. And let your mind work on it while you sleep, because your brain is working while you sleep. And sometimes you've been hearing people say it for years, oh, let me sleep on it.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that that's literal. You can actually write down challenges. So when I go to lay down, if I'm making a decision on something that I haven't figured out, I will write those things down. Don't put them in your head. Don't just put them in your head. Write it down on a piece of paper and put it next to my bed. And literally when I go to sleep, a lot of times I will wake up and have a decision on it. And I won't even have to think. When I wake up, I'm like, okay, this is what I want. And I say to myself sometimes, how did I know that last night? Like, why wasn't it that simple last night? It was because your brain works on it, and your brain does what you want it to do. And that's why last week I mentioned in a slideshow, you can, without a doubt, guys, you can train your brain to do whatever you want to do. This young lady was in October at the convention, was what? Not even a director? Not even a director. And she's currently running for platinum in April of the next year. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is like, and this is not to say anything negative about Jackie, but like Jackie isn't any better than anybody else. She's just asking for what she wants and moving in that direction. So don't tie this into anything hokey, because that's what people do. They tie it into all this hokey stuff, or I don't believe in God, or I believe in this God, and I don't. Look, guys, the law of attraction is real. Your brain does what you want it to do, but you got to tell your brain what you want. And if you don't, whatever your brain sees through your eyes, that's what it thinks you want.
Yeah, and that goes back to that very first quote that I was sharing about how with no vision, the people perish. And so, you know, your brain is looking for what you want to create, you know. And so for us, I mean, I had platinum on my wall like since October. And so it's no accident. I mean, it takes work ethic and things like that too. You don't want to just sit and have your vision board, you know, on the wall and that's it. But you want to be really clear about moving in the direction of your vision. And so I think that might just even be the last thing that I share before we're probably going to just take 5 minutes and work a little bit. I'm going to play one of my favorite Indira Ree songs. But, you know, what I will say, and this might be a whole nother training that Mr. Dunbar does, But what I found is that in order to have your vision come to life, you've got to be driven by your vision day in and day out, and you've got to lead with your vision. And what I mean by that, you know, I've got a few people, actually some of them are on here now, that are going for executive director, and you know, they're so close. And you know, like they've got, one of them has like 400 something premium left before she's executive director. And so, you know, if I'm her, I'm getting up every morning and I'm anchoring in. And when I say anchoring in, that's like taking a moment and just looking at your vision. Like, why do I want to be executive director? What is that going to do in my life? How's it going to feel? You know, what is it about executive director that allows me to be more of who I am? So I might take a moment and just center and anchor myself on that. And then from there, I am going out and talking to people and I'm sharing my vision. Hey, so-and-so, I would love your support. I'm working on, you know, growing in this company because it's going to allow me to support my family more, because it's going to allow me to accomplish my vision, my goals. It's my, like, so I'm talking to people, I'm moving, I'm interacting, I'm operating from my vision. I'm not operating from my fear. I'm not operating from the, you know, my limitations. And I think often what happens is that when people see an opportunity in front of them, let's say that, you know, I'm like, okay, you can become executive director if you spend $1,000 and go on a trip. And what I often see people do is they're like, well, I don't have the $1,000, so I guess I gotta wait. And what I would encourage you to do is, instead of waiting, I would encourage you to ask yourself, is that trip in alignment with my vision, or is it not in alignment with my vision? And if it's in alignment with your vision, you've just got to figure out how to overcome the obstacle of the $1,000 that it costs. And so, you know, I think that's the key thing with moving, you know. So we're going to create some of the vision board now. We're going to spend like maybe 5 minutes or so to do that. But I want you to use your vision board as a tool to propel you forward, to create the results that you want to create. And just always ask yourself, is what I'm facing, is this choice I have to make, is it getting me closer to my vision, or is it pulling me away? And if it's getting you closer to your vision, that's an obstacle. That's a something you've got to overcome in general to have more of your vision. So that's really, really important for me to share. So with that, I want to give you guys a few minutes to work on your vision boards. I know we've talked about a lot. And I think, you know, even if you just get it started tonight, I will say that I've got magazines, I've got scissors, I've got tape. The other thing that you can use, if you don't have the pictures, is you can always go, in this day and age, you can always go on Google and Google anything, you know, Google a picture of a check with, like, that's where I got the check from, was online, check of $10,000 in bank account. So that's another thing you can do, is you can literally Google it and just print it out and use that image. So just want to encourage you guys with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play one of my favorite India.Arie songs. And actually, we're going to do instead Greatest Showman. That's another good one. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes, and we're going to just go through and get this started.
Detail guy. So I know, you know, I have to do, and I have to tell myself consistently, I have to talk to myself as if things are. So if you're really saying, I want a Bentley, I want a Cadillac, I want a Mercedes, you have to be saying to people, hey, I'm going car shopping this weekend to go look at some Mercedes, because I'm looking at getting a Mercedes. You've got to have that. That's got to be your conversation. You got to get used to saying that you're going to be doing certain things. Before I started writing my book, I was telling people I was already writing the book before I put the pen to paper the very first time. And that's what helped me make me do it, was that I was saying, I'm writing a book, I'm writing a book, I'm writing a book. And I almost convinced myself before I started writing the book. And it was almost like, why am I not writing this book? And I keep saying I'm writing. And that's the thing. You got to learn to really, you got to talk yourself into it by making it your reality. And it works so very well when you do that. So be detailed with this vision board as you're cutting these things out. Be detailed. Do you want 2 floors in your house? Do you want a spiral stairwell? What kind of leather do you want in your vehicle? What color of leather you want in your vehicle? I don't just want children, but I want twins. Like Jackie said, I want twins, or I want a boy and I want a girl at this of this age, and I would like for them to be born in this month. You got to be very detailed, detailed, so that your brain knows that you're serious.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So on that note, I would definitely encourage you guys to keep working on this vision board. I think the other thing that's really important is that you research, so for example, in Legal Shield, we're pretty new. I know it doesn't feel like we are, but we're pretty new. And every time I'm thinking, I'm like, well, what's platinum? What's the Millionaire Club? And what's Platinum World? And so it's like I'm asking, so that I know what that looks like for me in this company. And so don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask people who are living lives that might be bigger than yours. Like I was talking to my mentor, Mr. Wynn, the other day. He's like, he's going for it so that he starts to get $100,000 checks every month. You know what that did to me? I'm like, I want $100,000 checks every month. And so it was, I'm just gonna plug my computer up here because it's about to die. And so I'm like, that's something new to put on my vision board. And so don't be afraid to talk to people who are living lives that might be bigger than where you are right now, because that will encourage you and inspire you. And I think, again, we live in an unlimited world. So just because Marty is getting checks that are $100,000 every month doesn't mean we all can't too. And so I think that that's the power of everything that we've talked about. So with that, I see, Linnell, that's right, girl. Monthly, I'm gonna put it on my vision board like that. Come to mama. That's the way you do it. So with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Dunbar, but it's been such a joy to do this. And you guys will have to be posting your vision boards and sharing with us what you created. And we're just excited to see each and every one of you rock it out. And I think that's the beauty of this time. And I just want to, again, thank Mr. Dunbar for his foresight and having this topic at a time like this where we've all got time to do a vision board, and there really are no excuses why you can't get it done now, and really make a concerted effort to go after it like never before. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
All right, and we're gonna close out here in a second. I just got 3 slides that I'm gonna mention here, and